What is going on, people? Welcome back. It's your boy Minhaz. In today's episode, we've got a very special guest for you guys. She goes by the name of Khadija Al-Kaddour. Now, Khadija is a mother of five, and in this episode, we speak about conscious parenting. Khadija is a coach for other mothers, and she helps other mothers reach a stage where they are able to show up for their children as the conscious mother. Now, guys, this is so important to me when it comes to what it is that I do here, because understand one of the main reasons, the main way for me to show up for you guys is for me to understand how to truly connect back to my heart, and that actually means how to become a conscious parent for myself and heal myself on a whole another level. So this episode we go really deep in terms of conscious parenting and what it takes to be a conscious mother and a conscious father. So saying that, before we begin, I want to ask you for one quick favor. Let's take a deep breath in right now and a deep breath out. Walaikum
Assalamualaikum.
salam. How you doing?
How are you? Alhamdulillah. Can you hear
Yes,
me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay. Excellent.
How are
Alhamdulillah.
you doing?
So good to connect. Alhamdulillah. I'm doing well. It's very quiet here. It's 10 o'clock at night and all the kids are asleep.
Okay, where are you from? Australia, by the way,
Alhamdulillah.
I'm guessing.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. I'm in
good to
Australia.
know.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you
Alhamdulillah.
for jumping on.
Whereabouts are you? The
Yeah,
UK?
the UK, London, South London.
How's your lockdown going?
It's okay.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, it's good. It's okay. I'm not complaining.
I'll make it easy for you guys.
What's that?
Alhamdulillah. You're not complaining because you're in your full
Yes, of
purpose.
course.
What you got to do.
I don't have a
Yeah.
reason to be
Alhamdulillah.
outside, so it's okay. It works in my favor, and alhamdulillah,
Yeah.
things have been picking up for me in terms of work, and it's been beautiful, the journey. And it was crazy because 2020 was the year like I completely quit my job to get into this full time, and then the whole
Yeah.
lockdown thing happened, so it felt like I I felt like, oh my God, now it's like, is this gonna affect me? Is this gonna slow me down? And um, alhamdulillah, that's when things kind of like I needed to kind of go through that as well to get to where I am. And it
Yeah.
helped in terms of the work because a lot of people were actually home and they were just stuck with themselves. So it's like
Yeah.
no more distraction.
They were forced to get the help they
Yeah,
needed.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Or reach out for support.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, subhanAllah.
I guess I wanted to ask you, we will officially start the podcast, and just want to thank you
Okay,
for
inshallah.
jumping on the collaboration with me. And I guess my inspiration was like the fact that you mentioned the motherhood part, where you mentioned like you're helping people be more conscious around parenting, and I feel like that was such a beautiful
Yeah,
thing. And for me, I'm young, I don't have any children. Inshallah, one day.
inshallah.
And I do, that is something I aspire for, in terms of being a father one day. And
Yeah,
yeah, and I guess I know you asked me in return, like in terms of what we would speak about, it would be about what it's like as a
yeah,
as a man to grow up with a family, or what my childhood was like. And I would love to kind of like share more of that,
yeah,
because I was so committed in
yeah,
terms of showing up with my mom, uh, and I had to.
yeah,
I didn't have a choice. Being a coach, it's like I'm telling everyone what to do, and I had to step into the healing part of it
yeah,
completely.
yeah. Really honest, being honest with yourself.
Yes, definitely. And I guess my first
Yeah.
question would be for you, like, what does conscious parenting mean for you?
When I think of conscious parenting, it's when it's an awakening. It's like an awakening back to your soul. It's really seeing the world from the lens that I'm seeing the world from, and maybe that lens isn't the most, maybe that lens is a bit corrupt, or maybe that lens isn't very clean. And so it was like we all have that unique internal lens, like we see the world. We it's very culturally conditioned. It's the perceptions and beliefs that we absorb from our parents. It's all these things that are there. And I think conscious parenting comes from a place where you actually make a choice to say, wait a minute here, it's not my children that have the behavior issues. It's not my children that are causing me to have these emotions. This is my triggers. This is the interpretation and my perception of the world. And I need to like unearth that a bit. I need to become more consciously aware of how am I operating? What messages am I passing on to my children? And for me, I think I started this more conscious. I mean, I've been studying parenting and my degree went back in 2012 in child protection.
Okay.
I got into child protection degree when I started way years back. And the reason I had a very big awakening even at 14 years old for something that my father had done to my mother. And so I was very aware from a very young age that you have to become aware of taking responsibility for your own things, your own stuff that comes up, instead of just reacting or blaming or shaming. I think for me, conscious parenting is really an awakening back to your soul. What is the messages that you're sending out to other people? What is the messages that you're telling your children subconsciously? What are you projecting onto them? And it's been an incredible journey, because I could say the most I have worked in this area are really getting vulnerable and being really questioning how I'm seeing my children. I have 5 sons. Was in probably in the last 4 years. And the biggest shifts I've ever had in my life is just in the last year, in the last 12 months. So when you go deeper and deeper, you start peeling and you start becoming more and more aware what's going on underneath. And, you know, subhanAllah, I just really think that's encapsulates, it's an awakening back to your soul. It's an awakening back to how am I showing up really? What's the messages I'm really passing on? What's the kind of unspoken rules that I'm carrying? And for me, it was very, very eye-opening, because I'm raising 5 boys. Wow. So my sons are like from 21, 16, 14, 7, and 22 months.
Mashallah.
So I've got big age gaps and big, you know, mashallah, young man, 2 teenagers, and a younger child who has that joy that, you know, he's 7 years old and everything's like, he has his innocence and fitra is there. So it's a beautiful age before the world teaches him this and not to do that. And the 22-month-old who just is like a little scientist explorer who's in his fitra and his joy and creativity. And I'll just tip this here and I'll just throw this here. And you're just like, it's this, the conscious part of you is like, no, like the unconscious part is like, stop, don't do that, follow the rules. And your conscious part is like, no, go explore, go find the world, go be your own person. So it's like, it's carving an awakening to your children that they are already innately their own soul. They're innately their own soul. We don't actually have to come in and put something in there. We're just cultivating what's already within.
Wow. That's so beautiful, and the world needs you. The world needs you. It's like
the world needs all of us to shine our lights.
Alhamdulillah, it's been, I feel like, you know, it's perfect timing for me to get you on board, and it's like everything. That's why I believe everything happens perfectly. You know.
Yeah, subhanAllah.
Because I had
Allah manifests it exactly when it's meant to be.
Yeah, exactly. And I had a person reach out to me and they were asking me, they want a coach for their mom, and I didn't answer that question yet. I guess I'm gonna be answering that after this, because I was like, okay, I'll get back to you on that. And then it's like a lot of my students, I end up having to even communicate with their parents too, like, because sometimes their parents they're trying to communicate with them. So I was like, okay, let me speak with them, let me help them open that door. And it becomes like they're trying to tell me how they want their son or daughter to be, and behind that it's like it's really more about them. You know, it's all about them. It's nothing to do with the children. If anything, it's like you just have to embrace them and accept them for who they are, and like be the change, right? But fully, not just like to the point where you're like logically you're telling them one thing, but unconsciously your own life is like a reflection of what you don't want. And
there's like a hidden agenda.
And it's like to avoid the trauma that they've experienced, they think they're protecting their children from it, but they're actually recreating it in a completely different way. And
Yeah.
Oh God, this
Yeah.
is like this. The world needs this. You don't understand how many people I
Oh,
know
it's so powerful.
that are parents.
It's so
Yeah,
powerful.
uh, definitely. Like,
Yeah. And I think it's this we impose subconsciously an agenda on others, particularly if you're a mother or father. Like there's all these beliefs subconsciously we hold onto, cultural conditioning, intergenerational trauma,
yeah,
wounds, trust wounds, abandonment wounds, rejection wounds. And I was just like coaching a mother today, and she was really she has this real issue with time where she rushes her children and everything has to be like she says, I'm so unhappy, I don't enjoy any joy because my children just want to play for an extra 10 minutes. Like, no, I have to make this goal and it's got to be done by this time. And she said it's almost like there's someone in the room telling me, ticking off, no, you haven't done it by this time. And I said, who are you giving your power to? Like, where did you create the belief in this moment right now? Where did you create the belief that time, that there was no time, that you have to get things done by time, you're not allowed to relax or
yeah,
have joy? And she said, my mother always taught us things have to be done on time, don't ask for help, be independent. And then she says, I hated that so much because we just I had to rely on myself from a young age. I had learned to rely on myself. So she had very strong trust wound. And I said, but you're doing the same pattern with your children. And she kind of stopped. She's like, yes, I am. I'm passing the same pattern to my girls that I hated that my mother did to me. And here she was getting upset, thinking the girls are too slow, the children, her girls, or they're not meeting up to, and she's getting triggered. But when she had this realization that she was just passing the cycle, she's passing on the same cycle of what she had been brought up, which she disliked so much, and she literally cried because it was like, oh, my whole life I was taught I have to be independent and I can't show up as me or have needs or just want to relax. And yet I'm doing the same thing to my children. Yet she didn't want that. And that's why it's so important to stop as a parent and to really reflect, especially when you're triggered, or especially if you think it's my son's like this, or I want my daughter to be like this, or I want my son. In actual fact, we're projecting our deeper wounds onto our children. And until we actually recognize them and really start seeing ourselves from a different lens, start healing that, then we can give to our children from a place where there isn't a hidden agenda back here that most of us are not even consciously
yeah,
aware of.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's like the treasure. When you find out
Yeah.
why you do what
Yes.
you do.
Yes. It's funny. So many people will say that to me, like, well, why am I acting like that? Or why is I'm having this kind of behavior? Why I'm being triggered? It's like because you're subconsciously holding onto a story or a belief or a narrative there that you may not actually consciously aware that is directing your behavior in a certain way, and yet you're not aware that you're doing it, or you may be projecting onto your children something that you're not even aware. And I'll give you an example, and this was a very personal example. Like when I grew up, like I experienced, my father was very abusive. So my father was very psychological and at times physically abusive. And I was the oldest of 8 siblings. So I had to learn from a very young age to like a co-parent, like to protect them. If my father was like getting very angry, upset, I had to like move them away. So I learned very young that being around a man, the first example of a man was unsafe. So that was my first message. And then I pretty much got, married at 17 to get out of being around my father and his abuse. And then went into a marriage there with a person that was wounded. And I had my own wounds. And what eventuated was a lot of toxicity. And from that experience, it was like you just know it's your blueprint. So you just know that and you go to that. And it actually took in those 18 years of marriage that I remember, especially that last 6 years, as I was trying to get out and protect myself and my children, it was so much unlearning and so much awareness, the shift, the realization that, wait a minute, it doesn't have to be like this, or it doesn't look like this, or why am I holding on to this belief? I know one of my biggest beliefs that I wasn't even consciously aware of until I hit my 30s was that I'm not good enough. Like I picked up this belief from as a child, and I picked up that belief throughout my 20s. So I always had that belief. Doesn't matter how successful I was, doesn't matter I had a degree, doesn't matter if I was a great mom, always had that inner deeper belief, oh, you're not good enough, you're not good enough. And I wasn't even consciously aware of it till like, early 30s, like 10 years ago. And then I realized that until you become consciously aware, you are projecting that onto others. You're putting up with things from others that is unhealthy. You're not allowing yourself to value who you are. And the biggest realization for me, especially in the last few years, I became a single mom, and then I remarried. I've been remarried now 4.5 years, and we have a son together. All that healing work was like I had changed the blueprint of what was healthy and what wasn't. And so I attracted a completely different person, and it's a more healthy relationship. But the biggest thing that I realized was my healing came a lot from understanding that I'm raising 5 boys here, and I could be projecting onto them the wound of the fear that they would come out like, my father or their father or other males that I had a wound around. And when I realized I have to heal this, because I'm raising boys here who are going to be young men. And I remember very much when my 21-year-old, 5 years ago, he said to me, he said, Mom, I can't be who you want me to be. And he was struggling at that time of going through the divorce and everything. And when he said that, it just hit me. I was like, oh my God, I've literally, this boy, 16 years of his life, I've kind of had this unconsciously, this like agenda that he's got straight A student, he's got to go into this, he's got to do this. But that was my coming from my wounds. That was coming from my pain and hurt. That was coming from my ambitions or limiting beliefs. But I couldn't achieve those things. I was kind of, pushing it onto him, or people will say I'm a great mum if he does this, this, and this, right? And he went the opposite. And it was like, it was incredible, because it was then this relationship. I had to see him as who he was, a completely separate soul with his own ideas and passions and beliefs. And instead of coming in and criticizing it or looking down on it or saying, wait a minute, that's not what I want you to do. I had to change my whole perception and lens and say, you know what? Yeah, you go ahead and do that. I believe in you. You can do that. That's okay if you want to do that, even though it wasn't aligned to my agenda. And subhanAllah, it made me see him completely different. It made me see my own sons and my sons after that wow, they have everything innately already there within them. They've got what they need within them. It's us parents that come in and we send messages to them that, no, don't do that, or what will people think about that? Or, we teach them to be conditioned to what other people want and validation from what other people want, instead of validating what they need, and that they've already created them innately resilient. He already created them exactly what they know, what they need to do, and taking that step back and allowing them to just be on their own path and respecting that. And if they come back to me, and reminding them, I don't even need to advise you. Like, I've got to the point now with my children, especially my 16-year-old, mashallah, is going to be an entrepreneur, that boy, inshallah, the way he operates. But he it's like, you already know what decision. I say that to him. I say to him, Ayub, you already know what you want. It's there. You don't need my approval. You don't need me to tell you. You already know what it is. And he's like, oh, but I'm not sure and all that. I was like, no, you already know. You already know the answers. And he'll go off and then he'll know and he'll do it. So it's reminding them that they're already innately confident deep inside. Once you take the layers of thinking away, once you take the layers of the beliefs, the perceptions, all the things that we hold on to, once you come back to that innate fitra, back to our resilient self that's already got the inner wisdom there, and you settle the mind, you already know what you need to do. It's we get in our way, or as a parent, we get in the way of our children becoming the person that they need to be.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
This is inspiring.
I really would love to hear your story around, if you wanted to share around what you experienced, like with your healing around your parents, especially with your mother.
Just recently, actually, for me to show up here, I have to be good with everyone at home, because for me to speak from my heart, if my heart is closed off at home, I cannot come on here and tell other people what to do. Like, it doesn't work. I just feel resistant to everything that I want to express from myself. Like I cannot express myself. Like I don't want to do anything in terms of with other people anymore. I close myself off from people when I close myself off from my mom. And even if we argue and we haven't come to a solution or we haven't spoke about it, I can't even come on here. I can't. Like I would resist the work. I don't want to even speak to any clients. I'm just like, everyone leave me alone. I don't want to talk to anyone. So I have to go back, and I'm that child in the family where I feel like I was the one who was like breaking all the rules in terms of, first I was a rebel. I was doing everything I was told I shouldn't do, but that was my way of like getting attention from my family, and which didn't work. So in some ways I got more shamed for my behavior, so I got more abandoned, I got more rejected, which led to more rebellious acts from me. I did everything. I've completely failed school, and I tried to change things around at the end of school, like before I finished high school, and that was the moment like I started finding myself. But then I left that, and then I went into this like into college, but then all my childhood trauma came back up. Like everything that I hid from myself, it was resurfaced. And at that point, then I made the commitment to be like, okay, at the time I had like a bit of skin problems, and I thought, okay, let me go deeper into this. Why is this here? And I remember searching that up on YouTube, like, okay, why, he had to heal my acne, right? But little did I know the rabbit hole I was going to go down, because that was like there's a metaphysical reason behind our physical illnesses, right?
Yeah, around eczema and skin problems and stuff, yeah.
And that was like, I do this, like literally that is how I started the whole situation in terms of like learning about how energy manifests itself, how we can hold on to pain, trauma. And deep down it was like that was a physical manifestation of me wanting to be seen and express myself. And I always like held everything in. I held my emotions in. I felt like I believed being cold was strong when I was a kid. And around my heart especially, like there was so much pain that I carried around my heart, like from all the abandonment and the rejection, that I felt like I couldn't rely on anyone, especially my mom, because she rejected me. I'm the middle child, so it was like there was so many moments where I needed her to see me, but she couldn't because of the like her situation with my dad and my mom. And like I was like asking for it every time in the moments where she was never able to give it to me. And that led to me feeling like I cannot rely on people. And I grew up, even though now I'm conscious about it and I can act like I'm here, I'm listening, I couldn't rely on anyone emotionally. So when I was trying to get like into situations where I'm getting into relationships, friendships with people, I wouldn't rely on anyone emotionally. And I was thinking, where is this coming from? Because then I would attract emotionally unavailable partners. And it's like I craved for that love that I had never got from my mom in my partners. And they always abandoned me. They always rejected me for wanting more. Which was like crazy, because as much as I think that's what I was attracting, that's what I was drawn to,
Yes.
It wasn't a matter of...
And
Go on.
Yeah, go on.
Do you want to just give your take?
You were energetically blocked from showing up because our attachment dynamics in our childhood, that shows up in our adult relationships. And it's almost like the unmet needs that we didn't receive as a child. I wasn't seen, I wasn't heard, self-sabotage behavior, perfectionism, people-pleasing, validation from others. All these patterns of behavior come from those unmet needs as a child. And we realize as our own parents, they're just wounded adults that also hadn't done their healing work. And it was passed on from one generation to the next.
100%. And I think that led to me like constantly asking questions like, okay, how did this happen? Why is this happening? Why is this here? And I felt like Allah, alhamdulillah, like I was put on this path for a reason. Like I wasn't, like it went so deep that I didn't know where this manifestational journey was going. It started off with The Secret, the law of attraction, and I was just going deeper and deeper and deeper to trauma, to shadows, and I was just like, this is like getting intense. And I started really questioning the relationships that I was manifesting into my life. That's when I was like, the work isn't outside, it's at home. And that's when I was like, okay, let me take a look at what I don't like at home, what I hate at home, what is there, what's really there for me. And I didn't consciously like plan to heal these things. It just kind of like happened. Like I would consciously, like when I argued with I knew one thing: the ego does not want to go. It doesn't want to do what it's not used to, right? So it's like, for me to create the healing, I have
Definitely.
to step into discomfort,
Protect you.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I knew like I was doing all sorts of things. So because of my skin issues at the time, my confidence was really affected. So I went into challenges, like to challenge my comfort zone. So I started doing things outside. But my friend, he constantly would remind me, your real challenge is your dad. And I was like, no, I don't even talk about that one.
Don't go
Don't
there.
go there. I was like, maybe when he's really old, like, and I'm really old and I have the courage one day. But out of everything I've ever done in my life, the most healing, the most change came from moments where I was able to speak with my mom and my dad from my heart. And to get to my heart was the challenge, because when I would, even their presence would just, I'd feel the walls of shields just come up. Even the way I would stand and speak,
Yeah.
even the way my arms would be folded, the way my feet would be pointing.
Your body was protecting you. Your ego and body was protecting you.
Yeah. And I was stubborn enough to say, we're gonna talk again and again and again. Like, it didn't make sense to me, because even my own ego was saying, what are you doing? Why do you need them? You don't need them. Then my brothers and sisters would be like, what are you trying to do here? Are you trying to seek for something you're never gonna get? I was being ashamed for wanting to heal the relationships.
Yeah.
It's
Because you're going against status quo.
And everyone projected onto me what they felt, but like they didn't want to watch me get rejected, so they would try to shame me for even wanting to heal things by telling me, this ain't gonna work, what are you trying to do? But I couldn't give up, because it was like, for me to show up here, I needed to do that. Like it's almost like I knew if I don't go there, nothing is gonna happen for me. Like nothing. And as much as, when you say like for your parent you have to realize that for your children, it's like I felt like I was like the parent, and my parents were my children. Like as crazy as it might sound, because I had to see them see their inner child, which they never even allowed themselves to see. So it's like I had to see way past this construct of my dad, my mom, and the pain, that I had to see them for who they really are rather than what I've seen. And that was where everything changed. And like even my mom now, it's like it's difficult for me to talk to her about emotions, like even when we speak now. But I am consciously making an effort. Like I'm going there. Like every time she would come to me and ask me for something, immediately my own inner child would be like, no. And I was just like, like, because when I wanted something from her when I was young, I never got none of it. So it's like when she wants something,
There's a part of your ego rebelling.
And it happens. I'm just like, God, she catch me at the wrong time of the day right now. I'm trying to process something that's coming up. And then I would consciously, I would try to go back and heal things, but I would speak from a very masculine place. So it's like I'm not even letting her feel my emotions. So she's just like giving that back to me. She's like, no, we're not gonna, like, she's trying to, it's like she's almost wanting to abandon me. I'm just like, no, that's not happening. We're too, like, I'm not letting you go there. We're gonna speak about it before you can just be like, avoid me for a whole week or two. Right.
Yes. It's so interesting when you see your parent. You see the parent for the inner child. You see their wounds. I think that was the biggest healing aspect for me, because as a child growing up, I saw my father as the abuser, and then to go through the healing works that I went through and the self-acceptance, really accepting me and validating myself and loving me for the sake of Allah, and really appreciating who I was. I could then see my parents from the lens of compassion. I could then see my parents from the lens that they had their wounds, and that's why they operated the way they operated. And the life lessons that I experienced, the things that I went through, the suffering, the abandonment, all the things, the wounds that I had, they actually are very powerful, because it's taught me to be more empathetic, or it's taught me to see the world in a different way. So in some ways, it reminded me how, the prophets, they all went through really hard tests, really hard tests. And it built their resilience and it built their character and who they were. That I now see that the tests that I went through, like really difficult things, especially as a child, I actually see them as Allah used all of that to build me to the calling that I'm meant to do in my life, the purpose of my life. And one of the biggest areas I work on is helping mothers to parent from a place of worthiness, not pass their wounds onto their children, not pass their self-hate onto their children, not pass their inadequacies onto their children, not to project their wounds onto them, and unconscious patterns, beliefs, all these things that we projected thinking. Futuristic thinking is a big one. The perception you hold about your child has such a big impact. In the work I do, I see so many mothers project onto their child. They think they've done this or this, and it's like, oh my God, he's going to turn into a drug dealer, and he's going to go into jail, and it's like this futuristic outcome that you've decided on this 7-year-old or this 10-year-old, and all it is, in the end of the day, is just disconnection. And when people are disconnected, they play up. It's the unmet need, because our most fundamental need before, the brain, you talked about that protecting, the ego wants to protect us, from even connecting. Before connection is protection. Our brain is wired to protect us from hurt, from pain, anything that we so say as a trigger, any stressful experience that our immature brain, absorbed before we became a full thinking adult. And so we take these messages and, it blows me away how much when I'm talking about it to mother and she's realizing, oh my God, I've actually decided that he's going to end up this, this, and this. I'm like, yeah, you created a futuristic outcome based on you don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
And coming back to that, the here and now, when you parent in a place where you are in the here and now, you're not stuck in the past memories of your own past memories of things and then projecting it onto your children. And you're not having futuristic thinking outcomes where you're thinking, oh, this child's going to come like this, and oh no, this child has this temperament, so I have to reject him because he's acting like this, so I need to go back. I was coaching a mother actually early this morning, and she was having issues with her 11-year-old, very triggered by her 11-year-old son. And we're talking about the patterns of behaviors, what's her triggers. And then we realized there was the link. When I was coaching her through it, she realized her husband's rejecting her when she tries to connect emotionally to him, and she plays up, she gets upset. She then was doing it to her 11-year-old son. And when I pointed out the connection, she was like, oh my God, I'm doing to my son what my husband does to me. I said, you're mirroring exactly the disconnect, and you're trying to get that attention and connection with him, and he's emotionally unavailable and he's blocking you and shutting you out. And then you're doing it to your 11-year-old son because you got a message, oh, that's not okay for me to do here. So now I'm doing it to my son. And it was like, she literally was like, I cannot, that was her biggest takeaway at the end of our coaching session. It was like, I cannot believe I'm actually doing subconsciously. She didn't realize she was doing it, right? And that's why it's so important to be consciously aware, the healing work of consciously aware of how I'm showing up. What am I saying and doing that actually I might not even be aware of the pattern of behavior, the cycle that I'm doing. And when she had this realization that she was doing exactly, she was shutting her son out. She was shutting him out when he was emotional, because the message is, I wasn't allowed to be emotional. I wasn't allowed to be emotional as a child. I'm not allowed to be emotional with my husband. So my son can't be emotional with me. And then we were able to change that belief that it's okay for him to have emotions. It's okay to feel. I am safe with my son when he is emotional. And it was so, because one of her earlier memories too was seeing uncles really lose it when they were very, very angry and upset. And it was very frightening for her. So she learned that if anyone shows any emotion, I have to shut it down too. And then when she realized emotions are healthy, we need, interpersonal skills are built on us, on having emotional connections. It's the courage to connect to someone. And that is so innate. That is more like you give food to people, you can give all that. But a lot of the issues of loneliness and depression and that come from that innate need to be seen and heard and connect to someone. The biggest resilient factor you can build in a child, and the message I'm sending to you, Are you seen? You are seen, you are heard, you belong. You belong, you matter. And so many of us weren't given that message, consciously or subconsciously. But it does have a big impact, because then you have so many adults that really have to reparent, go back to the inner child, parent the inner child, let go of some of the pain and hurt, the beliefs, the narrative, because it serves us to sometimes to hold in that mindset, right? It protected us before to play small. It protected us to please others. It protected us to thorn and kind of just give up our and set no boundaries. You know, most of us have issues with boundary setting and things like that. It served us because it protected us, and it helped us in that time when we were abused, or if we were told that we were making a decision and it's wrong. So we learned to just accept that it's wrong. But instead, like you said, so many parents, they didn't teach us that our mistake was wrong, or the things that we did wrong. We were taught that you are wrong.
Yeah.
You are the mistake.
Yeah.
And that is so, so important to understand, because that's what evokes the shame.
Mm-hmm.
And when a person feels shame, they disconnect.
Yeah.
When a child feels shame, they like, I'm not doing this. I need to pull back. I can't. I'll chuck a tantrum. I'll run out of the house. I will, turn to someone else. I will, because I can't do shame. Shame is the complete opposite of connection. And yet most parents don't even know they're doing it. They're not even aware, because, they were taught as children to protect themselves from vulnerability. They were taught as children to not be seen or heard. They were taught to, play small, or, like you said, it's armoring up, right? The armor's there to protect. And you only bring the armor down when you feel safe to talk about it. And the most beautiful conversations is when shame is actually talked about.
Mm-hmm.
We have that conversation around the beliefs and things that we hold we hold on to. And it's like taking that armor down. That's what conscious parenting is, conscious awareness. It's taking that armor down and letting ourselves be seen, letting ourselves have those flaws, letting ourselves say, you know what, I'm sorry I did that to you. I'm sorry I got really upset with you, like to our children too, owning that we also have flaws, that we make mistakes. We're human, we're so human. And yeah, I'm still learning that. Or I respect what you're saying. I jumped in and I made an assumption that I didn't mean, or I should have thought that through before I said that to you. It's like it's taking an ownership, and you can only do that and really come from a place where you're not offended, you're not taking your children's behavior personally, when you really start to dig the layers and become aware that I have some things going on here for me that I need to work through. And working through it allows you then to show up as your true person, as the true person that you want to be. It also gives our children the permission to say, you know what, it's okay. You do you. You do you, because you are already created with all the skills that you uniquely, unapologetically yourself is created of everything that you need. And I think that's one of the things I find the most powerful thing when I say to my boys, if they send a message to me or something, I did this, mum, or whatever, like the most powerful thing I say to them is like, I'm really proud that you did that. Like you were able to accomplish that. It might be something small, and it's like, really? It's like it's like even when they're a young man, it's like it's very validating to know that your parent recognizes that they recognize your achievement, they recognize that you can do that. And for many of us that don't have the opportunity, then it's validating yourself, because Allah already created you awesome. Allah already created you. He created you with so much purpose. And I think this is so important. Many of us went through stages where we thought we lost the zeal to live, or lost that purpose, or thought, well, why am I even here? What's going on here? And to find your purpose and your why, that's one of your greatest gifts, to get to that place, to strive for that. And Allah will bring that to you. And I always say the greatest gift after Iman is mental well-being, to have a mind that really sees the world from a place of that there's so much opportunity and possibility.
Yeah.
that's where you get curious. You really get curious. I wonder what life's going to give me. It reminds me of the hadith where, I mean, it's a dua that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he always make. He said, Allah, make the best part of my life the last part of my life. I mean, how awesome is that? That the best moments in your life haven't even happened. Like, to have that opportunity, the belief that some of the best moments of my life are just around the corner.
Wow. Well, I think it's like the one thing I kind of like picked up from what you said is like validating yourself. Because for me, it's like, as much as I do what I do, one thing I notice is like with my parents, it's like when I first told my dad I want to make 10,000 a month, he laughed in my face. And it was that's hurt, but it was like, that was like a reflection. It's almost like I've seen his own dad do that to him when he said that to me.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
Yeah.
like, does he even know he just did that? I was just like, okay. And then things did change. A lot of things. I went all the way, like in terms of writing letters to my dad. It was intense. Like, I knew there's always a quote that I remembered was, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek, right? And I wanted, the treasure for me was finding out what is it that I'm afraid of. So let me just go there. So what if I just go to my mom and say, we need to speak, even though I'm like terrified? I'll figure it out, right? It will come up in that moment. Whatever the block is, it's going to show up in that moment. Like, then I become consciously aware of my body. Just, and then I was like, all right, relax your arms down, stand face fully. and then I was like, let me hug her. Even when I'm hugging her, it's like, I'm still like leaning into it. I'm not even like just embracing her fully, you know? And then even to say I love you to my mom, it's like, I had to, like, I let her go out the room, then I had to chase her. Like, I was like, no, you're gonna have to do this properly. Or I was like, then I would go back and say to her that I love her. And like, then I was like, we need to speak about these things. And she's just like, no, but I don't want to speak about it. I'm just like, no, we're going to speak about it. And she's just like, ugh. And I was like, okay, I'll let you go now though. And it's like, I feel like the parents sometimes, which kind of like, I guess it goes back to that self-validating part, because I have to like sometimes validate myself, especially with the journey that I'm on. Like, I'm only 25, you know, and for me to get to this point, thank you. For me to get to this point, it was like, I was following my heart constantly, and at times it never made sense. Everyone would ask me, why are you doing this? What? The moment I wrote my dad a letter, why? And like even people on Instagram, like I remember I was sharing it to people, like, this is what I want to do. Something told me to do this and I'm going to do it. People were sending me messages like, Minhaz, you don't need to do this, you know, you don't need this validation. I was just like, yeah, but I can't explain this now, but I have to do this. And the night I wrote him a letter, he got up to fight me, like my dad. Like, it was him and me, 5 o'clock in the morning. I hear him coming home. He works night shift. He came home, he read the letter. And it was like my first attempt to connect with him. And I hear him storming around the house, and I could just feel that there was a tension in the house. So I woke up, I went to his room, and I was like, did you read the letter? And he just stood up, and he was just like ready. He's like, what do you mean? Like, he was ready to fight me. And then I felt my body just like go like that, like it's like we're gonna fight now. And I was thinking, is this what Allah is putting me through? Like, is this what I really came up here for? And I was like, okay. Now I put my hand out like this. I said, no, we're not fighting. I said, I did not come here to fight. I said, you're going to sit down and we're going to speak. And then he didn't expect that. He wanted me to fight back. He wanted me to get ready, and then he could just come at me. And in that moment, he just sat down, like almost like a child. And I was just like, I said, okay, presence is going to work. Presence is going to work. And you don't understand, half of my body wants to run, and half of my body is just like, breathe, breathe, breathe. And it was those moments. Nothing was solved that day because it felt like he was so angry. He couldn't hear me. He couldn't feel me. And I was just like, okay, this was pointless.
Yeah.
I went to work that day and I was just like crying so much because in the bathroom with anger, like it was rage. Like my inner child was at rage. Like I'm seeking for love from a man that, like this guy. And I was just like, part of me wants to like almost kill him. Like that's how much anger I had. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I processed that throughout the day. Like every man that came into the shop that day where I was working, I would literally see them like I would see my dad. I would like that rage. They would feel it and they would trigger it. I didn't say nothing to them. and they wanted to fight me.
Energy.
Yeah. And then I was like, okay,
Wow.
this is deep. And I was like, I need to go back there again and again and again. I was like, no, but I'm taking a break. I need a break. I'm done with this. Like when I came home, my mom and all my brothers and sisters, like they were shaming me for what I did. And it got me really angry because then I started doubting myself. But 2 days later, I felt like I was hiding in my own house. Like, I live with my parents. So it's like, I felt like I was hiding from them. I was like, no, that's it. Like, I'm going.
I understand that.
Yeah, I'm going there. I'm going into his room because he was in his room and I just went in there again. I said, look, we're going to speak. We're going to do this differently again. I
Yeah.
couldn't explain it. It's like a feeling that came inside of me that said, go, go, go. And I'm just following it.
Yeah.
I walked away that day. I think that was the first time I earned his respect because I didn't go in there with the energy to let him get angry, but I held presence. I was like, we're going to speak properly. Like, let me explain that letter to you. And that was like the beginning of something I couldn't even imagine. I felt like I was dreaming almost. Like I thought this is impossible for us to connect. Because before that, me and my dad, it was just business. We never, like I could go a whole year, and we live in the same house. I could go a whole year with speaking to him once about money, because I'm like dealing with the
Yeah.
finances. A whole year in the same
I
house.
experienced that. Yeah. Yeah. I'd run away every time he came into the house. Yeah.
After that,
Yeah.
I think.
You know what you did was so much courage.
Thank you, thank you. I
Yeah.
didn't know why. I didn't know who. Like this is why I believe. Like recently, I got really religious into Islam, and it took me a while to get to
Yeah.
that because my heart was so blocked with a lot of pain, and it's still
Yeah.
somewhat there, but it's like I'm so consciously aware of it now. It's like I'm learning to love now, and love, especially in moments where I feel like shutting people down. And like to be a coach, you have to really live it. You cannot just say it, right?
Oh, next level. Next level. Why am I triggered? What's going on for me here? And you came in at that moment and your intuition told you, that innate wisdom told you, I'm safe with you. I'm not here to threaten you. We're having a safe conversation. And he picked up that vibe.
Yeah.
Your vibration, your energy that you sent to him was like, surrendering. I'm not here to fight you. This is safe. And subhanAllah, that's the first thing people forget, so much energy. They forget how body language and energy is so, what's the word? It's very powerful,
Yeah.
how you show up. Like, I think there's one psychologist, he said, like, within 3 minutes of a conversation between two adults, he knows when they did research, they know within 3 minutes if this conversation is going to turn into disaster, or in that first 3 minutes, they'll know, yep, there's going to be a good outcome.
Yeah.
Like they knew like 90% of the time in that first 3 minutes, because you come in with your perception, you come in with your energy and your shifts. And this is one of the biggest thing I learned about conscious parenting too, was that you don't talk to your kids when you're triggered. You don't go there, because you're not in your rational mind. You might say something that you don't actually mean.
Yeah.
And it's coming from your own wounds. It's coming from your own agenda, or it's coming from your own, the stuff that's in the back there. And it was so powerful for me to learn that there is a time for everything, just like what you said. And you felt that intuition that day when you walked into his room. Your intuition, your innate wisdom told you, no, we're doing this, and this is safe, and this is okay. We're doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That day I walked away, something changed because the conversation, it went to normal. He started speaking to me about money. Like I was just like, oh, here we go. Like that's his way of expression. I realized that was his way of expressing, like, I care about you, but I just don't know how to say it, but I'm gonna say it. Like, just checking how you doing financially. That's his way of showing care, like, and love, right? And I walked away that day, just everything changed for me at that point. Like, I was a boy that turned into a man from that conversation. That was the moment, because I was seeking that for my whole life, like in other ways. I was like, almost like I had a mask of toxic masculinity when I was outside, and I was scared of people. I would walk around like almost like there was a target on me, like I was a threat. People were a threat. Guys were a threat. I felt unsafe in my own neighborhood. After that moment, I felt so free. like a child almost. But at the same time, it's like not a child, but as a child, but as a man, if that makes sense. Like it's almost like integration,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
What was the shift?
it was the moment where I felt like I faced the deepest, darkest fear, which was my dad. Like I could sit there with the feeling rather than running away or having to fight him when he wanted to fight me. And it was like, that was the moment I realized that, because honestly, I believed I was going to be an old man, maybe even on his deathbed, like having that conversation where I would be able to like just speak from my heart without holding back. I honestly, I even gave myself the time. I was like, if it takes you that long, it's okay. I was like, I didn't think it was going to happen that quick. And this was 2 years ago. And it's been a work in progress. But it's like, for me to manifest financial freedom, he was the key, because he was always talking about money. So anytime I went for money, unconsciously I rejected money because I hated everything to do with my dad.
Yeah. He was your blockage.
Yeah. So that's why I was committed to
Yeah.
go in there again and again. And
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really interesting. People don't realize, and this is something that really was a big one for me, if you want to talk about conscious parenting, was how my money blocks were showing up with my boys. How I was using money in a way that in a controlling way, even where if I'd bought something for them or if they'd done something, it's like, I've paid your fees and you've got a fail mark,
yeah.
So indirectly I'm manipulating, because I'm saying, like, I've done this for you and you're not showing up with the goods. So, and it was a form of manipulation, because I'm saying I'm paying for it. I carried this narrative or story. And I remember my son's like, I'll just get a job and pay for it. It was like he was sick of hearing that. And when I catch myself and realize, DJ, you're passing, you're manipulating, you're using what money you get and you work for, and you're saying, because in my situation, I pay for all my kids, all my boys' expenses. I was stuck in this victim story around that I pay for all their expenses, and I want certain results from them. Again, unconscious agenda. And until I became more aware of my money blocks, I can't tell you how much it healed so many other aspects of my life, particularly my relationship with my children. And the biggest message that I realized around my own money blocks and healing that, what was blocking that around giving and receiving and all them and valuing my services, valuing who I am, was I was unconsciously sending a message to them about money that actually was not helpful, just like what your father did to you. That the concept of money, he had his own beliefs and ideas around money, and that was the blockage. And when I realized I was doing that, I had to take a step back. And it was almost like I was passing my scarcity, my mindset around this area to them. And I had to switch and realize, no, when they would say, oh, mum can't afford that, or mum, it's like, no, we can afford that. We'll manage. It was almost like to shift as I became a more abundancy mindset, and knowing that Allah is the best of providers and money will flow to you, and money's easy. When I started change, talking like that, thinking like that, acting like that, I saw the shift with my kids, where one of them started investing his money. He's invested into I can't remember what he's invested in, but he was 16 investments. I saw the difference. I saw the difference with another one of my children, where I used to always just give him every time he needed something. And I thought, I'm not teaching him to be responsible, because he always learned that, well, mum will pay for it. And then he started to become more responsible with his money. And he started to pay for the things. I saw the changes. And so it's not people think, when you're thinking about conscious parenting, you think it's just the interaction between you as a mother and your child. It's not. When you heal many aspects of your life, and it shows up in many different ways, where now I'm passing on a very abundant mindset about money to my children, around wealth, around that, you can do it, you can be a millionaire. It's passing a different, which gives them more financial security, that you can do it. And they'll come and ask me, Mum, how much did you earn this week? And it's like they want to know, they want to see, and having those conversations around money where there isn't the shame, And I know as a child, my money blueprint was completely different around this area.
Oh,
Oops, sorry.
it's okay.
I think I got excited.
Honestly,
Yes,
that's
my blueprint was like completely different. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, that sounds amazing. And for me, it was like a massive change because you know when I said the first time I told my dad about 10K a month, he laughed at me.
Yeah.
Whereas when it
Yeah.
manifested and I was telling him, it was like I didn't take that as a victory, but I was like, you see, don't doubt me.
Yeah. Yes.
Don't doubt me.
And it allows you to believe in yourself more.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
it came the moment the healing that I had to go through to get to that. And it's like, I guess I do want to talk more about my mom's situation because for me, I value more relationships. But
Yeah.
in terms of intimate relationships, I knew my mom was like the cave, right? The more I can go in there and
Yeah.
light up that cave, it will show in my relationships. And
Yeah.
I was so committed. Like I was so committed to going there again and again. And there were so many memories that were living on within me around abandonment. Like all my frustration and anger when it came to love, the word love, the feeling of love was around my mom. And it's like my ego was just blaming her for all of it. Like anytime I wanted to suppress that energy within me, she was the reason. So as much as subconsciously, like
Yeah.
in her face, I would be like, I'm trying to be good with her. My heart was never connected there. And this would show up in terms of partners would be emotionally unavailable, reflecting my own wounds back at me. And it was a constant mirroring situation where I was like, every relationship was mirroring that back at me. So then I knew it was like I'm seeking for love outside when it's actually at home, right? And that's I guess in some ways I even believe that my destiny to be a coach is around relationships, but I'm not rushing
Yeah.
it. Like I don't. I'm
Yeah.
letting it unfold because as
Yeah.
much as I
The
value
steps there.
yeah, as much as I value the money and like manifesting, because a lot of people, that's what they come to me for. So I'm kind of like embracing that because I always felt like I rejected that because, things with my dad. But it's like ultimately when it comes to
Yeah.
like even doing the work, I asked myself the question, what would I do if I did this full time? It would be healing people's relationships because everything is essentially that. Like, you know how you said for the way you're showing up with money impacted the way you are literally shaping the lives of your boys. And alhamdulillah, that is
Yeah.
like a blessing, like, and just the little things
Yeah.
like, asking them when you notice they're going through something and asking them how they feeling, like how they really feeling.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
like as much as I'm cold and I try to regulate my own emotions and I don't rely on anyone, if someone asks me, I would take that as an opportunity to receive, right? But I
Yeah.
don't usually get that. It's almost like my family, it's like they're still shying away from emotional conversations. So it's almost like I have to surround myself with the right people, and like you have to kind of like get support system outside of the family, right? When it's no longer
Yeah.
physically present around you where you are. But honestly, like things have changed massively. Like as much as the craziness that me and my family have gone through, it has healed because I was not gonna give up because one big thing I had inside of me was like I'm gonna move out as soon as I'm financially able. But I turned that around. I said I will go if Allah wants me to go, but as long as I am here, the work is here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I was stubborn enough to say I will stay here for as long as I need to be, basically. And if I need to stay here forever, that will happen. And
Yeah.
this is what healed, like my brothers, my sister, like a lot has healed, because it's your energy, right? It's not what you say, it's what you don't say.
Definitely. Yeah. 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 SubhanAllah. And that builds that secure um, connections. That builds that connections that I see you, I hear you, I'm not a threat to you, you're safe with me. I can be your container. I can listen to you, I can support you through this. And it's, such a powerful lesson to know that the past isn't your reference anymore.
Yeah, yeah,
It doesn't serve you to stay in the past. The future is what serves you in the future is completely different to what you're holding on to in the past. And when we get that, when we really understand that the past was more powerful lessons for us, and it's not our past reference, you know, it's like you can say that part of your ego or that little inner child. It's like, it's okay. I know you're trying to protect me. I know you wanted this for me, but this doesn't serve me anymore. And moving to, when you become more consciously aware, is moving to some place where your heart becomes more, it's not pure, but your heart becomes, you don't have the grudges as much. You don't have the resentment. You have it far less, or it starts to go over time, because you feel like, I want to show up from this place. Like, I energetically really want to serve you from a place, or be there for you from a place that I intentionally have really there for you. And it completely changes anything, because the intention is behind action. When you come from a place where you're so aligned, you're being more authentic, your heart is recognizing, this is very aligned to me, this is right for me, you just show up completely different. And the conversations you have are deeper, and the emotions, like you said, validating emotions. Like, one of the biggest things I learned in emotional coaching and emotional intelligence, especially with boys, anxiety shows up as anger, depression shows up as anger, betrayal shows up as anger, because it's safe to be angry, right? Yeah, but it's never the anger. And when our mums come to me, he's so angry, he's so aggressive. It's like, hey, let's peel this. Let's see what's really going underneath. What's the unmet need? What's the emotion that's not being validated? Connection, love, compassion. I want you to understand me. I want you to validate my experience here. I want you to see my reality. And you know what the best thing about it is? And this is a big thing I realize is so powerful in conscious parenting, is that you can have a different opinion to me. You can have a different reality to me, and I don't have to take that personally. You can have completely separate realities on the same thing, and it doesn't need, you don't have to get offended by it, and I don't have to take it personally. We can see this, be in the world with these separate opinions and realities, and yet have a connected relationship. And that is that duality most people don't realize, and yet it's the most powerful thing in parenting.
Wow, that itself is everything. I think it's like, for me to be at home and be at peace, it was never about healing anyone, but accepting them fully for who they are.
Yes.
And like, that was like,
and accepting their reality and their worldview.
Yeah. And that was like me accepting that broken mirror that I might have within me, that aspect within me, you know, because they're essentially a mirror. So whatever I love and hate about them is somewhat connected to me. So as long as I can embrace them and accept them, I heal myself in the process. And it was like something I truly practices with every relationship that I go into. Like, I was willing to have those difficult conversations. I was willing to, like, you know, embrace them and accept them for who they are rather than who I want them to be. And it was a constant, like, after the relationship would end, I would notice how my relationship at home would reflect that change. Like, I know it was vice versa. It was always a reflection, right?
Definitely.
I just want to say thank you for being on here today. It was like a beautiful conversation, and I definitely want to do more collaborations on like specific topics around this, because I've got a lot of mums who are following me, and I know, like, you know, they're waiting for me to dive into this one day, because I do love this stuff, but it's almost like I'm embracing other parts of myself before I kind of like essentially get there. But I do want it to be based around relationships and healing, and so I do want to like have a constant invite for you here anytime you feel like there's a message to share. And
Excellent.
Inshallah, if anyone's watching this, and especially if you're a mother, I want you to reach out to Khadija here, and like, because I literally worked with a lot of people, and I'm constantly in communication with a lot of mums who are like trying to find more conscious ways of being there for their own children. And like, even for my mom, like, I would literally send her your way. Let me convince her first.
Oh, it's been a journey, subhanAllah. I really honor your courage. Like, I really honor that. Like, it's to just be vulnerable and to speak your truth. It's such one of the greatest gifts. So I really honor that, mashallah. And you were able pretty much to do that for yourself. Your own healing work and you pushed and said to my parents, you know, I need to have those conversations. I need to go against my ego. I need to push through and show up with my vulnerability. And subhanallah, how powerful is that? That is kind of like that energetic blocks were like taken away to a certain
yeah,
degree.
yeah. To a certain
Yeah,
degree, I feel like the journey, I mean, is constant. You're constantly learning and healing and
it
letting
is.
go.
You're constantly evoking, yeah,
Yeah, and I've
evolving and transforming and growing.
like,
Yeah.
inshallah, like that's why it's like one of my biggest dreams is to have a family, because it's like I'm actually excited for that, whereas I would have dreaded it at one
It's
point, you know.
so awesome. It's so awesome to hear you have worked in this healing, because the greatest success, I think, in a marriage and bringing up children, if the more healed you are, the more consciously aware you are of yourself, your patterns, who you are, that self-awareness, self-compassion, you show up for your family in a completely different way. To have done the healing work instead of afterwards or while the children are being raised, I just think it's so, what's the word? It's so daring. It's so courageous. Like, it's such a great gift. It's such a gift, conscious awareness. And as we end off, it actually reminds me where Ibn Qayyim, he says that when Allah really loves someone, he'll give them more station of awareness, awakening of another station of awareness. And that's what healing and growth is more insights about yourself and about the world and the lens that you see things. It's insight of, oh, I'm operating like this, or I'm thinking like this, I'm holding on to this belief subconsciously, or I'm seeing people projecting onto someone, or anything like that. But to have that more insights of that awareness, it's a great gift, because they happen throughout your life as long as you are committed to that journey.
Yeah,
And that's what it is. It's a journey, isn't it? It's not
yeah,
that there's no set destination.
yeah,
It's a journey. Like, your intuition's already told you that in the right time, exactly when it's meant to happen, then you'll move into this place.
yeah.
And I think it's very powerful, and really honor you in this
Thank you,
conversation.
thank you.
I'm really proud to see younger men like showing up in this space, from this place where healing and growth is important, and being unapologetically themselves.
Yeah,
Alhamdulillah.
thank you. That means a lot, and I'm grateful. You know, like I'm glad I reached out, because I just felt there was a message here that, you know, when we connect, when we speak, it
Yeah.
will be a beautiful conversation. And like, I, even for all the people watching, I know, like, you know, a lot of people would love to hear about this, like, especially the people that are listening, and especially the younger group, because a lot of my followers are like mixture of ages. You know, I've got like young, very young, to the point where, you know, mom with multiple children, a father with multiple children, and it's like, it is
Yeah.
such a different, like, and I never thought it would get to this stage, you know. So it's like, there is a responsibility here, and I'm willing to embrace that. And that's why it's like, I'm very dedicated in terms of my faith. Like, I had to get serious there, because I knew I was being guided here, and it's like, I wanted to commit to Allah fully, so I can like receive that, right? And you know,
Yeah.
I leave this one last bit. It's like, the moment I committed to Allah fully and I started praying 5 times a day. I've never done this in my life, by the way. This was in December. I completely changed everything. Like, if you just go back, it was a transformation. And it was like, I asked for the signs and I received the signs, and I went in fully, and my work just blew up. It was like, in terms of the students, it's endless, like, it's constant now. Whereas before, it was like,
Yeah.
I was still healing or something, but that was like the one big piece of the puzzle that I was missing. And
The energetic block got thrown away.
yeah,
Connection of Allah.
connection
Yeah.
with Allah. That's why it's like,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I want to thank you for being here. And anytime I have like a
Oh,
topic that I want to speak to you about motherhood, or something about, and maybe even I want to learn from, because my intention here is like, I want to share moments where I'm learning, and use this platform to learn and help everyone else learn. So I will reach out.
I'll accept it.
Yeah,
I mean, inshallah.
inshallah, inshallah. Thank you for being here,
Thank you so
Khadija,
much, inshallah.
and have a
And
beautiful
how you
day. And I hope this inspires everyone else that's listening. And reach out to Khadija if you want to work with her. I definitely recommend this work. Like, I am where I am because of the work that you do. And I guess it doesn't really differentiate whether you're a mother or you're a son or you're a father. I feel like this applies to every one of us.
everyone,
Yeah,
every soul.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Jazakallah.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Take care. Walaikum salam. Peace and love.